Biden wants to end gunmaker liability protections. That could sink the industry, advocates say. He wants to drive us out of business, said Mark Oliva, a director at a firearm industry trade group. President Joe Biden would like some divine help on his gun control agenda, but his ask might be surprising. And gunmakers warn the results could be dire for their industry. During remarks announcing new executive actions to curb gun violence Thursday, Biden took a detour as he imagined being able to ask God to immediately change one gun law, and it wasn't eliminating assault weapons or bump stocks. He would have the Almighty let people sue gunmakers. This is the only outfit that is exempt from being sued. If I get one thing on my list, if the Lord came down and said, "Joe, you get one of these, give me that one," Biden said at a ceremony at the Rose Garden. Most people don't realize, the only industry in America, billion-dollar industry, that can't be sued, exempt from being sued, are gun manufacturers, Biden continued. Biden, who has spent years writing and fighting gun laws in Washington, is referring to the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, PLCAA, a 2005 law that largely shields firearm manufacturers and dealers from lawsuits when people use their products illegally, such as by shooting someone. He wants to drive us out of business, Mark Oliva, the Director of Public Affairs for the National Shooting Sports Foundation, the firearms industry trade group, said of Biden. So it's a very scary proposition, and we take it very seriously. The law is not as well known as some other hotly debated proposals like universal background checks or banning assault weapons. But the National Rifle Association called the PLCAA, the most significant piece of pro-gun legislation in 20 years, when the law passed, and gun control advocates have been trying to repeal it since then. While many gun control advocates would still put universal background checks at the top of their agenda, repealing the PLCAA would be up there, too, though it admittedly faces a tougher climb in Congress, which is probably why Biden wanted supernatural help. The protections are unique in that they are defending the industry from the intended use of their product, said David Puccino, senior staff attorney at the Giffords Law Center, which promotes gun control. The industry knows that if the victims got their fair day in court, the industry would lose. This law was introduced in response to a flood of litigation seeking to use the courts to reduce guns after a prior attempt at legislation stalled out in Washington and many state capitals. These outrageous lawsuits attempting to hold a law-abiding industry responsible for the acts of criminals are a threat to jobs and the economy, and jeopardize the exercise of constitutionally protected freedoms, the bill's sponsor, then Sen. Larry Craig, an Idaho Republican, said at the time. Craig succeeded in stopping the suits. Most litigation against the firearms industry is now dismissed, though the law provided for some exceptions, such as for gun defects or if there are violations of other state or federal laws by the manufacturers.